Yo guys, how's it going? I hope everyone's doing well. Let's look at some Quora questions. First up, which two specific companies, one of a product that experienced a shock to their demand, another of a product that experienced a shock to their supply during the pandemics? I don't know. I mean, this is such a vague question. There's a lot of industries that, have increased productivity while others just decreased. But there's a logical connection there, For example, masks, right? So more people suddenly want masks. So obviously, the demand and supply and demand in both cases goes up. But I wouldn't think that people during the pandemic need more cars, for example, or they need more houses. So obviously the real estate market is not going to do very well. In fact, I know that because I have a friend in Canada who's doing that, and he said, yeah, there's barely any interest to buy property. I don't know about like right now, because when I talked to him, it was like many months ago. But yeah, sure, some industries go up, some industries go down. Okay, next one, just take a look at that question. When will we achieve our destined reconquest and population replacement of East Asia? Like, just wow. Just wow. I'm not even going to touch that one. It's just something to stare and marvel at. Next up, why are online skin and makeup stores seeing a surge during the pandemic? I don't know the precise reason for that, but I have my guesses. And the guess is, you can argue that, well, especially with women, they, without makeup, like waking up early in the morning, they can feel quite rough, and they can look quite rough, I should say. So with men, we typically don't really care. Our hair is a bit messy. It's like, so what? It will even itself out during the day. But women are not like that. And I think, for me personally, I think everybody should be a bit more self-conscious, and we should have more respect for ourselves. Like, it's not good around to walk around in a half-ripped t-shirt with completely hair that looks like an atomic bomb went off in there. It's just not very nice to look at, and it's kind of a lack of self-respect. So yeah, I think men should look after their image as well. It's basically about image, yes. Women are usually much more self-conscious than men. A lot of, not all of course, but a lot of them do want to look better or good, and that involves using makeup and hairstyle or whatever, but makeup usually, yes, skincare, etc. They want to look good, they want to look better, they want to look more appealing for whatever reason. There are many reasons, that's the thing, but yeah, and right now, obviously, during the pandemic, a lot of people are locked up. They have to spend more time together, and so perhaps this is why. I mean, I think they just want to look good to other people. I don't think it's something. You could argue that, okay, you don't go outside, so you don't get the like vitamins from the sun so much, so you might need to compensate using makeup. So I don't know. There's a lot of things here, but yeah, I think that's kind of a summary here. Okay, next one is kind of important. Were surgical masks even required in Asian countries prior to the COVID-19, since they were common to be worn in flu and cold seasons? So you have to understand here that in Asia, during flu and cold seasons, there is no requirement to wear a mask. There are like recommendations, but this is like this is just a recommendation. Like, you don't have to do it. So the big difference here is that, in Asia, people tend to be, well, in most countries, developed nations, I should say, the people are more kind of better drilled than people in the States. they listen to authorities more, and so they can make their judgments quicker. I think it's also they are more responsible people. They know that, okay, I have a cold. I don't want to go around sneezing all over the place and infecting a bunch of people. So, hey, I'm going to wear a mask. It's not going to stop everything, but it's going to stop something. And something is better than nothing. So, yeah, the question here is incorrectly phrased because the masks were not required, okay? This is not a requirement. It's just a lot of people are very responsible people and they care about the society as a whole, so they wear a mask. Of course, yes, after the pandemic started, then you started getting recommendations from the government, basically urging everybody to wear a mask. Okay, next one is, I don't really understand this question, but okay, with the ever-changing information technological space, how are consumers of e-banking services protected from moral hazards and malicious acts? Well, first of all, I would ask this person who asked this question to define what moral hazard means in this situation, because I really don't know. I don't know at all. As far as malicious acts go, well, it would need obviously better security on behalf of the banks. The other thing to consider here is that I actually have been watching a lot of scam bait videos, and mostly these scammers come from India, and they have a particular scenario that they follow. There's a script that they follow. And one of the things they do is they use online banking demo pages. They will basically show it. They will share the screen with the person, with the victim. And so they will say, see, oh, you have right now like $8,000 in there. Okay. Now I'm going to make a transaction. I'm going to refund you $300 that we owe you for no reason at all. Just we're such good people. They will go into the page's code of that demo page code. They will change some numbers, and then that gets reflected into the page itself. So for example, they will add $5,000, and then they will, play victim and say, oh my God, I made a mistake. I transferred $5,000. We were supposed to only transfer $300, but I mistyped. So somehow 300 became 5,000. The problem with that scam is, of course, if you reload that website while they're fiddling the numbers, it's going to revert back to the original numbers, and you're not going to see the transfer or nothing like that. But these type of scams target very old people generally, who don't really understand how computers work very well, who barely understand e-banking websites, and so they fall for these type of scams. So I would say, yeah, we need better education to the people so that people are more aware of how the internet works, how e-banking works. And also we need some kind of mechanisms on behalf of the banks to catch these, illegal transactions. And I think it's already kind of in place for the most part, because now people know that there's a lot of scammers coming from India doing these type of things. So there's like double, triple checks, etc. So yeah, I would say like that. Next. Does the coronavirus impact tourism in Thailand? Yes, absolutely. Well, there was a recent article actually on CNN, I think, about Phuket Island. Phuket Island is a very, famous tourist destination. Pretty much everything is closed, the beaches are empty, etc. So yes, of course, it's obvious. Like it's strange to ask this question because the answer is really obvious. Next question. That's one of my favorites personally because I live in Japan. What things are severely overpriced in Japan? Many, many things. And I'll give you some examples here. I have a friend here in Japan who lives in Tokyo. well, he used to be on my show actually before. Anyway, he's a scuba diver. Of course, probably not so much now because of the pandemic, but anyway, he has equipment, etc. He told me that it is easier to go, let's say, on Amazon US, buy your gear, etc., etc., and have it shipped over to Japan, and it's still gonna be twice cheaper than buying it here in Japan. You go ahead, economics geniuses. Please tell me the reason for that. I think it's terrible marketing here. It's a terrible way to run the economy. I know this also from my part. I know this because I buy sometimes DVDs, Blu-rays, etc. So, well, first of all, these products sometimes are not even available in Japan, or I mean, they could be available, but maybe no English subtitles, etc. Look, there's many reasons, but in general, for example, I have this one here. Let me show you. This movie, well, it's a TV show actually called Time Spiral. I haven't watched it yet. I bought it. So this is Japanese TV show with English subtitles. I bought this one from US Japan, from the Amazon US, and even like including the shipping, etc., etc., it still came out twice cheaper than if I were to buy it in Japan. So it makes no sense. Somebody has to sit me down and explain to me why that's the case, other than, somebody or a bunch of people are trying to make basically a quick buck in Japan, which is not okay. But I think that's what happens. And, there are other products here which are overpriced. Usually these are like imports because Japan imports a lot of food. So then, like, certain types of fruit are very expensive, etc. Watermelon, for example, etc. Cakes are pretty expensive. I always say, like in America, I can go to some relatively big grocery store, and I can get a whole cake for 10-15 bucks probably. But in Japan, it's easily 30, 35, $40 for a cake. And the cake size is smaller too. It's going to be smaller than, the US counterpart. Look, I don't know the reason for that personally, but there are definitely many overpriced things in Japan, yes. Okay, last question for today. What can regular people from other countries do to help Myanmar in 2021? So first of all, if you don't know about Myanmar at all, well, there's a big military coup there that started, I think, 1 or 2 months ago. The democratic government was basically overthrown by the military. And this is, well, one large reason for this is because people say that the government was trying to pass some reforms that would have limited the influence of the military. So the military had a big say on the constitution, on the laws passed, etc. Well, the government was a bit tired of that, and so they wanted to reduce the military's role, influence on politics. I guess some line that was not supposed to be crossed got crossed, and the military took over, imprisoned the democratically elected leader, and it's been a series of riots on the streets. Hundreds of people have died in protests, etc. So it's a serious situation, especially for obviously Myanmar. But the big question here is, so, okay, if I live in Japan, if you live in the States, and you want to help, what are the mechanisms in place for you to help these people? And the reality is, I think not that much, because we're talking about these type of very complex country-to-country relationships where, you have to have a certain status to even talk to another country. Like, you can be a diplomat, for example. That's okay. You can be a politician. You can be a governor, etc. Usually, the best advice people give in this type of situations is you have to boycott. Well, that depends on what. If it's like climate change, you boycott certain countries that encourage climate change. For example, Indonesia, they destroy rainforests, they replant it with palm oil tree, which is not as good and harmful to the environment in the long run. So you can boycott palm oil. That's an effective strategy you can do. Okay, here in Myanmar, obviously, what you're going to do? You're going to boycott some people. You're going to hurt the people. That's going to make things even worse. So no, you have to put pressure then on your elected representatives, on your governments, so that they put pressure on this, illegal occupation of Myanmar. I think it's the only way, because you can also send aid, etc. But again, remember that a lot of aid is sent to African nations, for example, and then it's stolen by warlords, confiscated by warlords, etc. So that in the end, aid might get there, but maybe like it's completely diluted by the point that it reaches its destination. So you have to think about that. And in Myanmar could be the same. You can have an aid package and the military just says, oh, okay, we're going to confiscate this package. So you have to be very careful how things work. Now, I don't know the answer to this particular question, but it is more complicated than you think. All right, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. If you have any comments, please drop them in the comments section. I always encourage discussion. And, if I'm like demonstrably wrong about something, please point it out. I'll try to do more research afterwards. But anyway, I hope you stay fine, stay safe, and I will see you next week for the next episode. Bye-bye.